Ready?
Sure.
Okay. Hi, everyone. In today's video, we are going to be talking about relationships and schizophrenia. Hi, and welcome back to the Living Well with Schizophrenia channel. If you're new here, my name is Lauren, and this is my partner, Rob, and together we make videos about what it's like to live with schizoaffective disorder, which I live with, as well as schizophrenia. If you would like to see more videos from us, make sure to subscribe to our channel. And also, if you would like to help support the creation of videos like this one, make sure to check out the link to our Patreon page. It's in the description below. Through Patreon, you also gain access to our private Discord server where we offer various types of peer support through text channels, as well as video messaging and video peer support groups. So if that's something that interests you, make sure to check out the link to our Patreon page. Okay?
Yeah, I think you need to change that up every once in a while.
Fine. Okay. Not today.
Not today?
Not today.
What do you think about constructive feedback?
I'm not a fan. No, I do what I do. I appreciate your feedback. Okay.
Okay. So what's the format here?
Shh.
Oh,
Just
okay.
look pretty.
Okay.
All right. What?
I just, I try to balance my time between looking at the camera and looking at you. And sometimes I'll be looking at the wrong spot based on what you're saying.
So listen, don't get in your own head about where you're looking. Be cool, man. All right, so in today's video, we are going to be answering questions that you, our audience, posed about relationships and our relationship and navigating it with me having schizophrenia. So we put it out to, I think, our Instagram audience about if they had any questions that they wanted to ask, that they wanted to know more about in terms of navigating relationships and schizophrenia. And so we are going to be going through some of the most common questions that came up.
Okay, so what's the first question?
All right, so the first question is, when and how do you disclose your illness to your date/partner?
So, you did it, I want to say maybe the fourth date?
I think it was the third date, and that was very fast for me. I had really only dated a handful of people after having the diagnosis, but usually I was very scared to tell people because of fear of judgment, fear of negative stigma that they may hold, all those kinds of things. But for some reason, I felt comfortable with you and safe enough to disclose to Rob that I live with schizoaffective disorder.
That's nice. You've told me before about people that you've dated where you've just never told them.
Yeah.
And so, in regards to that question, my guess is that people kind of have an intuition about when they should tell someone, or maybe kind of like how somebody might react to that. And I guess you went with your intuition and it worked out. Wow. This is our baby monitor. Our baby's sleeping right now, but not actually sleeping.
So yeah, I don't think there's really a hard and fast rule as to when you should disclose your illness to a romantic partner or date or whatnot. I think it's really up to you as to what you're comfortable with. And it's going to maybe vary from person to person that you're seeing too, not just person to person who's disclosing, but also person to person that you may be dating.
I think another aspect here too is knowing that, once you disclose your illness, obviously I think you want to hope that person is accepting. But if they're not, that's almost good news as well, in terms of at least you know where you stand. And it's probably scary to do it. And it's probably scary to not scary, but upsetting to not get a good, accepting response. But at least and you wouldn't invest more, I think, energy in that relationship when a person's not really going to fully accept you for who you are.
Yeah, that's kind of what I tell people too, is that maybe that's a reason why it's better to tell people earlier than later, because it can act as kind of a litmus test as to how that person regards people who struggle with mental illness. And if they are not accepting and not great about it, then that's not really someone that you probably want to be dating in the first place. So it can kind of be a weeding out mechanism too. Okay, so the second question is, what helped you to feel safe opening up about your diagnosis? Good question. What did you do that made me feel safe?
I didn't kiss you on the first date.
He was very respectful. Yeah, very respectful. I don't know. I think we just really connected instantly. Not instantly, but the second date for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything you really did to make me feel safe. It was just kind of the way our relationship was progressing, and I felt like I could trust you with that information. Do you have any tips for like how someone else might be able to make someone feel safe disclosing? I think maybe, you know what, actually something that did help is offering something of your own that is potentially vulnerable. So Rob was in the process of getting out of a previous relationship that had a lot of things going on. And he disclosed all of that to me. He disclosed that he had 2 kids, and he disclosed a lot of vulnerable things about his life. And I think that that probably helped me to be like, okay, I can be more vulnerable with him too and share my stuff too. So I think that was actually quite helpful.
I think that, you had taken me to get cookies beforehand as well. So that cookies,
Bribery.
and so, yeah, I'm holding the cookie when this is happening. But I also think that you kind of, it wasn't like this conversation where you were just like, you just blurted it out. Like, I have schizophrenia. Like, it was like you approach it in terms of a way, like where the person knows that it's something that you're being vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like you aggressively told me that you had schizophrenia or anything like that. It was, it was kind of tentative, and I knew that it was something that was important.
Yeah. All right. So, third question: has someone ever broken up with you after finding out about your diagnosis? No, probably. Well, kind of. Yes. I was seeing someone when
You should totally say their name now and just. That would be nice.
I really want to, but I'm not going to. I was seeing someone when I was hospitalized after moving back to Alberta from Ontario in 2016. I think it was fall of 2016. That was kind of around when I got the diagnosis too, but I didn't tell him that I got a diagnosis. I think he knew that I struggled with my mental health because we were mutual friends of one of my close friends, but he didn't know the details of it. But when I was hospitalized, our relationship kind of petered afterward. He kind of receded, and more distance happened until we just didn't talk anymore, or rarely talked. And so I don't think I got broken up with, but I got the long breakup. So yeah. And then the other people that I dated between then and you, I didn't tell. So didn't have the chance to break up with you.
Because of that.
Yeah. But it happens. And it's not a big deal. Again, it's kind of like a litmus test to see how this person is going to be in a relationship with you when you were living with a chronic mental health issue. Number 4 is, how do you share about your illness with your in-laws?
I'm trying to remember like how I told my family
You wrote
and
an
friends.
email.
I wrote an email?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's actually not a bad thing to do. Like, in terms of giving people, like, you don't want people to like react the wrong way, right? So kind of giving people the like room to like have their own reactions and it be private. I mean,
Have time to process.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the thing is that, like, with respect to like our relationship, I don't need like my parents' approval or anything like that, and their opinion wasn't really going to change anything. So it really was kind of like me putting it out there, like, this, you should know this, but it's not. I don't really care what you think.
Maybe
So-
more like telling your ex and their partner.
Okay.
Yes, in terms of in-law, weird in-laws.
Right.
But
Okay.
maybe it's something that mattered a little bit more in terms of telling your side of the family.
Right.
But I think you did an email for that too.
Right. Yeah.
But they were wonderful. They were so accepting. But the email to your family brought up some fears and concerns. Do you remember that?
With my mom?
Your mom and your sister both
Oh,
were
yeah,
kind of
okay.
scared.
Yeah.
And then
And then
we had already been making our YouTube videos. And so they went and looked at those and they got even more scared. here's my whole story on the internet, but it really takes education, I think. So your mom and your sister didn't know much or anything really about schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. And so the more we were able to share with them, the more they knew of me, like personally, I think the more accepting they became.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 5, how do you disclose about past suicide attempts?
I wonder, like, who do you disclose that to?
Like to you.
Oh, to me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to remember that now, too. I kind of do remember. It was pretty intense.
Yeah, I was crying in bed,
Mm-hmm.
looking at you in bed.
Yeah. I think you were really worried.
I was terrified. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think a lot of times we get a lot of questions about how and when do you tell your partner about your diagnosis? But there's a lot of history to that diagnosis that
like,
you also need to divulge.
How many
Well, you don't
episodes
need to,
have you had? And like what has happened and hospitalizations and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot to unpack in terms of like understanding somebody's history with mental illness.
Yeah.
And obviously suicide attempts.
Yeah. I don't really remember much beyond
just crying in bed.
Just crying in bed. Do you?
I don't remember a lot either. Yeah. I mean, I think that I was glad that, you know, that you were still here. And felt sad that you went through that experience. Like had that period in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So it was difficult for me to hear, but it wasn't like I didn't have like judgment about you about it or anything like that, you know?
I think I was worried about judgment and I was worried about, I don't know what I was worried about, but it's a very hard thing to divulge. So I don't know, tips for how to do that. Make sure you don't spring it on them. Make sure you guys have time to kind of process it together and talk about it if need be.
I do think that it's a good thing to disclose to your partner, you know, and, you know, just thinking about this now, there's probably room to initially disclose your diagnosis and then say something along the lines of like, you know, there's kind of a lot to unpack and, you know, there's more that I want to share with you, but it just takes it's going to take some time for us to like kind of reach that comfort level so that they understand that there's kind of more to it. You're not trying to hide it, but that it is a sensitive thing. And so I think there's a way to kind of like build that up.
Yeah. Open the door and then whenever you're comfortable, work it in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Number 6, how do you support a partner through hallucinations, psychosis, and intense depression?
I feel like, you know, since having the baby, you've been so stable that, and then this kind of happens where you like almost forget like what it was like when your partner's going through a difficult time, you know? But the difficult times are a lot more difficult, I think, than you would expect. You know, something that I kind of like really need when you're not having a great time, when you're struggling, is communication, you know, about how you're feeling and what you need and that kind of thing. And it's kind of exactly that time when you're struggling, when you're not able to like communicate well with me. And so, you know, it kind of creates this situation where I just feel like I know you're struggling, but I also don't know like what I can do and what you need and what you want. And so
in that regard, I find it helpful when you kind of facilitate communication for me. Mm-hmm. So when you kind of not treat me like a kid, like don't do that.
Just like make suggestions.
But yeah, like offer me kind of multiple choice questions or yes or no questions that just kind of break down communication to make it a little bit more accessible and easy for me when I'm struggling. Because it is definitely something that I very much struggle with. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with when they're having a hard time.
Yeah. was going to say, like, it's taken a while to kind of figure out the way to approach it, but it's definitely now like try to suggest some coping strategies, like going and having a shower, or going for a walk or a run, or like, getting out of the house. And
caveat, it's very important to have a conversation about what your aims are in that regard, because when he first started doing that, I took it as like, this idiot thinks that I can go shower it off, or I can go walk it off, or like, and I would get so mad at him and just like close down and not do anything. So I think like getting on the same page in terms of like figuring out together, maybe what are some ways that are helpful for you to cope, and then suggest those things instead of like the typical mental health Band-Aid offerings of go take a bubble bath, go paint your nail, like, ugh. So that's how I interpreted it first. So maybe have a conversation to get on the same page before you do that kind of stuff.
She's really salty about this, but the truth is that, like, if you can get her out of bed and like into the shower and through a shower, like, I want to say like 50-50 are usually like, oh yeah, that was really good.
It helps.
That's what I needed.
It helps.
Which is not bad,
But you need to get on the same page about what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had some arguments about coping strategies.
Can you tell?
Specifically. Yeah.
What else do you do that helps me through?
I think us going to therapy when you're struggling is also something that's helpful for kind of us both.
Sure.
Like having somebody who can kind of, because like when you're struggling, I just feel like we're a lot more prone to relationship conflict. And then it becomes this like intermingled mess. And so like therapy in those situations is helpful for us, helping us sort things out and communicate with each other and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that communication is something that quite frequently breaks down when one or both partners are experiencing intense symptoms. And so therapy can definitely help with that. Apart from that, when I'm experiencing hallucinations, delusions, paranoia, or intense depression or whatnot, you are really good about checking in with me and reality checking if I need to. I don't often do that, but I appreciate that you offer, and just kind of, checking in and asking what I need and offering suggestions like, do you need to go rest, or why don't you go rest, or whatever it may be. Also, distractions help me a lot, I think.
We play a lot of board games.
We play a lot of board games when I'm not
great.
okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just sit there and cry a little, and sometimes not. Distractions are good for me, and maybe they're good for you too. Okay, number 7 is, how do you know when it's time to intervene when your partner is showing symptoms?
It hasn't gone well in the past in terms of like intervening. And so we've kind of talked about this in terms of like how we would approach things in the future, in terms of like calling for additional support, like friends to come in and help us. Mm-hmm. It's really tough because, when things are not good and I'm feeling like we need support, and I have made that suggestion in the past, you felt really threatened about it. And so it's, even though we have this like kind of set up, it's still this kind of tricky situation of like, I don't want to like upset you, and you feel like I'm blackmailing you, and
yeah, I think I'm very private when I'm struggling. I was gonna say I don't know why, but I do know why, because it's embarrassing and it's hard, and it's not something that you want the people in your life to see and to witness and to know about you, that you have times like this. And so when Rob is saying, oh, let's call for support, it feels like he's punishing me sometimes by like bringing my best friend, bringing our co-parents, bringing the people that we've talked about bringing into the situation to see me in a very compromised state. It's very, very hard. So, we're still trying to iron out what exactly happens. I think the last time that I was really struggling, I was more open and having conversations with you about going to the hospital and
Hmm.
trying to like figure out what to do together. I think that that's a really important thing is to whatever you do, just at least try to be as collaborative with the person who's struggling as possible.
I agree.
So like signs of when you need to intervene.
I think this would involve like imminent danger to yourself or to others. That's kind of, I think that's kind of the big.
Yeah. Or if I'm communicating that I am struggling and need additional help, which I'm learning how to do more. If someone is more early on in their journey with mental health, they may not be as forthcoming with needing help. That is something that has taken me a long time to learn how to admit and to ask for, and I'm still not good at it. So, trying to check in and trying to get a feel for where the person is at.
So just reflecting on kind of when things reach that kind of boiling point where you might be a danger to yourself or you might be a danger to others, I think that's kind of too far in terms of when you would just call like a friend for support. When it gets to that point, that's kind of when you would call like 911 or the police or that kind of thing. So it's, hopefully we're calling like for like friend support a lot sooner than that. And usually I would say, it's easier to tell when you're struggling because it's not something that just happens immediately. It kind of is something that you kind of slowly fall into, and you'll have like a few days or a week where you're like struggling, and then it kind of like builds up. So you kind of have an idea that something's coming.
That kind of also makes it a little bit harder though, because it's like a slow build. And so it's hard to kind of figure out where the line is in terms of needing to get additional support. And so I don't know, the advice that I would give is to just kind of trust your gut, trust your instinct. If you have a feeling that your loved one requires more intervention, requires more support, then do it. Offer it to them. Don't, dictate to them and take away their rights and tell them exactly what's going to happen. But, offer support, offer potential interventions.
It's tough because they're going to resist, so like it's just, I feel like it's something that just kind of comes along with it. And I know that we've heard from a lot of like in the comments of videos, like the difficulty that people have trying to like just support and help someone, so there isn't a great answer here. I feel like it's hard. I mean, ideally it would be like everybody wants to get support when they need support, but that's just not the way that it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess conclusion here is that offer support whenever you feel it's necessary. They may not accept it, and that's fine. You can't make them accept it. The only time that you can really intervene and like get them help now, even if they're refusing, is when they're a danger to themselves or to others. Okay, number 8 is how do you open up to your partner without making them feel uncomfortable or worried? It's very hard. I'm very cognizant of opening up to you about difficult things and it being worried that it is going to make you worried or on edge around me or doubting my capacities, especially since we have kids.
I would think that you would have felt that earlier on in our relationship and that there's much more of a level of comfort now.
There is, but it's still really hard, like admitting that something is happening that I don't have control over and that is making me not able to function at a level I would want is very hard. I still find it a very vulnerable thing sharing when I'm struggling and when I'm experiencing symptoms. And so I definitely have it in my head that I am going to worry him, or I am going to not be judged. That's never really an issue with you, but it's hard. So I don't know. Do you have any suggestions for how I should share with you in a way that wouldn't make you uncomfortable? Or
I think it's just kind of a matter of practice. Like, I know that, and just going through, you know, like we've been through the trauma of various incidences together, so that, like, I just feel like you are more comfortable about that stuff and talking to me about that stuff now. And it doesn't, I don't want to say that doesn't require vulnerability, because it obviously does, but probably it's not like it's this, like, we need to stop everything and talk about it. And you're worried about how I'm going to react or anything like that. Like,
so maybe that's a good tip, is just trying to be as open as possible, as frequently as possible, so that they kind of know what is more regular occurrence for you, what they should be more concerned about, what they should help you with, like the more open I become with you, the easier it's been to be like, okay, what do we need to do? Do we need to do anything? Yes, no. How do we proceed? So yeah, frequent vulnerability. How do you not take your partner's episode personally?
honestly, very difficult. Like, I would say that I still take it personally when you're struggling. It's hard. It's hard to separate things sometimes. And you would think that it would just be like, okay, like, I know that she is struggling with something and it doesn't have to do with me. And I think we're trending in that direction. But, sometimes especially in the beginning, I felt like you were just mad at me, and so, yeah, I feel like it caused a lot of relationship conflict. And, like, it's something that I'm ashamed to say. Like, I wish that, like, it's something that is happening, that you shouldn't take personally, but it's almost impossible not to take it personally sometimes,
I think there's a lot of layers to how you could easily take it personally, whether it's, like mental health symptoms come out directly in your behavior and how you interact with people and your affect and whatnot, which is very easily to take personally. I've done it with you when you're struggling. Mm-hmm. And also then, like, your life is being altered kind of negatively, and so it's easy to take that personally too, I would imagine, where it's kind of like, oh, they're bringing our life down. That's a really harsh way to say it. But do you know what I mean? Is that ever
a little bit? I get that it is quite layered. Maybe understanding that you might take it personally. So kind of giving yourself more room. Therapy, mm-hmm. like talking to a therapist who can help you be like, yeah, you don't need to take this personally, or here's how you can better support her, that kind of thing.
It was very hard for me too when you took it personally. Like, it felt like I was like needing support and showing you how I needed support, even if I maybe wasn't, and being met with like anger at me for being angry at you.
Well, I think the, like, taking it personally part is like me wanting to support you and wanting to communicate with you, but you not being able to communicate, and it feels like you're pushing the support away.
Right.
And so that's where there's the, like, it's hard to not take it personally element. Yeah. So getting comfortable with rejection, maybe.
I don't reject you. Okay, anyways. Number 10 is, how do you encourage your partner to seek their own support while they care for you and your mental illness? Yeah. That's definitely something that's been on my mind a lot, especially when I'm struggling. I always encourage you to make your own therapy appointments, keep seeing your therapist. I try to get you to, make dates with your friends and stuff, and keep physically active and, eating well, but it's hard, is when I'm struggling.
With your own motivation and stuff.
Yeah. How do you think you do in terms of taking care of yourself when you're taking care of me?
I think I shift to like maladaptive coping strategies, like comfort eating and like looking at Google News a lot, and like I'm on my phone a lot, and like I just kind of am distracted, I feel like. Not good coping strategies. Good coping strategies are like getting more sleep and exercising and like eating healthy. Yeah. But it's hard. I think that it's hard to like.
It's stressful.
Yeah.
And so stress, you look for coping strategies, and often the easiest and most appealing are maladaptive strategies. And so
just starting to recognize those more and trying to like shift towards healthier things.
Number 11 is, what do healthy boundaries look like when caring for someone? What are healthy boundaries with considering my partner's mental health?
The first thing that comes to mind, I think for me, like with respect to healthy boundaries, is knowing that like if you're struggling, I can't take that away. I can't fix it, and not trying to like kind of force you out of a situation, like understanding that like this is something that you are struggling with and that I want to try to support you, but I can't, how do I say this? I feel like I got way off track on that one.
No, I think I understand. Like, Rob has been struggling more recently with his mental health too. And I really get pulled into trying to pull you out of it and really concerting all of my energy into trying to pull Rob out of depression. And, I've spoken profusely with my therapist about how that is not helpful. I'm just exerting all my energy into something I can't actually do. I can't pull you out of depression. I can help you and whatnot, but I can't literally pull you out. Just like you can't pull me out of a psychotic episode or depression or mania or whatever. You can't do that for your partner. Everyone wishes they could, but it's just not something that can be done. And so understanding where to draw boundaries in terms of what your role in supporting them can actually feasibly be.
Mm-hmm. I think also being able to communicate like what your capacity is, and like trying to navigate like asking for what you need as well. That's kind of an important thing to just, I don't know if you would call it a boundary, but more of a just like having communication between each other about what you both need, and trying to figure out how do you support each other.
Totally. Communication is something that's going to come up pretty much with every question, because it's so, so important. Like when I'm struggling, I'm very concerned about putting Rob out, like draining his energy and his resources and whatnot. And so oftentimes I won't ask for the support I need, and it'll drain him in other ways because, I'm struggling in other ways, and that's problematic. So it's really helpful when he comes to me and says, this is my capacity. This is what I can do to support you. This is what I can't do right now. And that kind of gives me a frame of reference, like, okay, here's how I can lean on him without draining all of his reserves. And here's how we can work together to kind of get through this. That's really helpful for me.
This feels like therapy.
Number 12, can the stress of romantic relationships bring on symptoms? Yes. Do we need to elaborate on that one?
Maybe only like something that I was thinking about was just that I feel like our relationship has been a lot more stable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's because we just had a baby and we've gone through that experience. We just got married. We've gone to therapy a lot. I don't know. But I think that like starting a relationship is stressful. Like whether or not, even if you don't have, a chronic mental illness, it's
figuring out how to fit into each other's lives is stressful.
Yeah, totally. Like, you're changing your life for someone, both of you. in terms of how you accommodate a new person in your life. And that's a stressful experience. It takes a while to kind of get used to each other. And
yeah, so I suppose that's a good elaboration, that like the first 2 years of our relationship, there was so much change and adaptation on both our ends. But for me, like, I became a mom to 2 kids who I wasn't a mom to before. I moved in with you. We got married. I completely changed my career path. It was like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things happened. And I think that's important to acknowledge, that any kind of stress is a trigger for symptoms. Anytime I've been stressed in life, I've definitely had a flare up of symptoms. And so, yeah, going through all those stressful things of working out how to make our relationship work and how to fit into each other's lives was quite stressful. And so, yeah, I was more symptomatic. But now we're just perfectly smooth sailing and rainbows and butterflies, and nothing can go wrong.
Yeah, we fired our therapist.
No. Number 13 is, how do you tell the difference between your mental illness and your own thoughts in a relationship? I'm going to kind of interpret this one as like kind of the issue that we already brought up around relationship conflict and mental illness symptoms kind of getting intertangled.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only is it hard for me to tell what is maybe like deluded thought, or what is my depressed mind or my manic mind, or what is a thought distortion, and what is like what I'm really thinking and feeling about the dynamics of our relationship and whatnot. And that's very hard to like navigate and pull apart when you're struggling. And I know that that's also hard for you to kind of decipher when I'm exhibiting symptoms of my mental illness and when we're having legitimate conflict. It's hard when you're struggling.
It is hard. I almost feel like what makes it difficult is when you have a prolonged period of you struggling and relationship conflict, and it's just like, weeks or kind of on off like months. When things are good, then it's easier when I think like mental health struggles come along. It's a little bit easier to be like, okay, I am identifying this as not related to our relationship. Or even conflict. If conflict comes up, it's a little bit easier to deal with because we know what it is. We know how to deal with it. Instead of like when they both come up, intertangling, then it gets really messy. Yeah. What was the question? I feel like the answer is therapy.
How do you tell the difference between your mental illness and your own thoughts?
A therapist will tell you.
I don't know. Therapy.
Yeah.
Number 14. If both of you have mental health diagnoses and are both struggling at the same time, how best do you deal with this?
So I've been struggling with my mental health over the past, I guess, I want to say like 6 months or so.
Oh, I was going to say a year.
Like a year?
Yeah.
I think that it's kind of related to like COVID, pandemic. Kids are home a lot more and homeschooling, and sleeping a lot less because Lauren snored a lot during pregnancy, and because of the new baby, like getting up, a few times a night. So sleep has been disrupted for quite a long time. And, I hit kind of like a month of just feeling really low, like every day, like kind of just being close to like weeping. And I haven't talked about this with really anybody yet, besides like therapists and doctor. And so I started like antidepressants. And so I guess like we're both facing mental health challenges right now. In relation to the question though, like how do we support each other when both people have like a diagnosis?
Well, if both people are struggling at the same time. So I think we've kind of lucked out in terms of like when you started struggling, I kind of got more stable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I was better equipped to support you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you were better equipped to support me when you were well and I was unwell. So
we haven't faced the...
wish us luck.
We haven't faced the... Okay, well, we'll have to do an update on this, I guess.
If we're ever both struggling, we'll make a video about it.
Okay.
That would be hard, though. I'm sorry if you're in that situation where you and your partner are going through difficult times.
I feel like it's this sort of thing where communication and empathy and compassion and...
It might be a nice opportunity to, like, muster motivation for yourself. So if you're in a low and you're concerned about your partner who is also in a low, coming up with ways to help them. So let's go be physically active. Let's go make a healthy meal. And then you have to do that too with them.
Yeah.
So that might be a nice way to kind of both.
You've dragged me on some runs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I needed it just as much as you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And board games.
Board games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Psychosis. If you're both going through psychosis, that might be tricky. You might need some more support.
Outside support.
Yeah. Number 15. How do you navigate paranoia around your partner?
So something funny has come up a couple times. And it's Lauren feeling paranoid that it's not that I don't love her. It's that I don't like you. Like, I don't like you. And you get all like worried. Yeah. And then I just have to reassure her that, no, I adore you. I love you very much.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help. Okay.
I still think he doesn't like me. I know he loves me, but I don't think he likes me all the time.
Right. So there's just nothing that helps with that paranoia?
I mean,
I
suppose it's better for you to just lay the love on me than it would be for you to be like, okay, and walk away.
Yeah, I see why that's a problem.
Paranoia is hard because, I think the more you acknowledge it, even if you're trying to like reassure the person, the more real and big it becomes.
You've had paranoia around thinking that I could read your mind and stuff too.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then we were in conflict more often, and I realized that's not something that you can do.
Oh, because we wouldn't be in conflict if I could read your mind? Like, if only he knew, then. Oh, so I kind of proved it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Or now I'm kind of spiraling into like, oh, he planned it all and he can't read my mind. Anyway, next question.
But, what about answering this from the perspective of people who may be dealing with a partner who's having less gentle paranoia?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of like situations that might have happened around that. I think what we've read and what we've talked to other people about is kind of like acknowledging the emotion around the paranoia. Like, I understand that you're scared, but not really acknowledging or kind of playing into like getting too wrapped into the other person's paranoia and trying to pull them out that way. Like being like, I understand you're scared.
Because like
but can
I said,
we keep doing this?
The more you acknowledge the delusion or the paranoia or whatever, the more enmeshed in reality it becomes for the person. A common like paranoid thinking that happens for me is like helicopters overhead looking for me, or police following us, or people following us. And you in the past have done a good job of being like, well, I don't see or hear anything, but that's probably scary. Or, definitely focusing on the emotion that the person is feeling because their paranoia is very real to them. And so saying like, you seem really scared, or I understand why that would be really scary. And then suggesting like, can we keep doing whatever we're doing with that still being the case? Or,
looking for distractions.
Can we accept that and still move on?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Number 16, how does Rob feel about you having schizophrenia?
That's it's a big question, you know? Like, do I wish you didn't have schizophrenia? Because we've kind of talked about that aspect before, right?
I'm sorry. I'm stuck on you not liking me still.
Baby, I love you. I love you.
Okay,
Wow, it was really triggering.
How do you feel about me having schizophrenia?
I guess I just don't know what our relationship would be like without you having schizophrenia. And maybe that sounds really weird. It's not like it plays like an integral role in our relationship, but I feel like it's something that we have, like, our relationship has adapted around and accommodated, and, we've learned how to like manage and navigate together. And, I think we're doing a good job of it. I mean, I know that you wish you didn't have it. And so, I mean, I guess in that respect, I wish you didn't have it either. But I feel like it's something that doesn't really get in the way of our relationship and doesn't define our relationship. And
I mean, that last statement isn't totally accurately depicting our experience. Like, I had that episode in October 2019 where I was in the hospital, and shortly after that, you wanted to postpone our wedding.
right.
So like, it's nothing to shrug off. It has...
that was a lot about kind of reaching a place of stability.
Yeah, of course. But still, like, there was instability largely because of my illness.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Like, yes, I do agree that we are doing a good job of managing it. And, I know you love me for me, not in spite of I don't know, whatever. I know you love me, regardless of if I have schizophrenia or not. But it definitely has, played a more challenging role in the development of our relationship.
Yeah. I guess I just wonder, like, I think most relationships face challenges.
Yeah.
And was this like our challenge?
Okay, and the last one, number 17, how do you get over the feeling of feeling like no one will love you due to your mental illness? Oh, yeah. So when I first started having difficulties with my mental health, I was in a very, very long-term relationship. And when things really came to a head with my mental health and I was given the diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder, shortly before then, that relationship ended. Not because of my mental health or anything. It just... we mutually agreed to end the relationship. And so for multiple reasons. But anyway, for a long time, I think until I met you, and even a little bit after I met you, I was almost paralyzed with the fear of feeling like no one would ever love me because I have schizoaffective disorder, and life with it is complicated and life with it is hard. And I felt like I couldn't be an adequate partner for anyone in the typical sense of the word. So like what you see in movies and stuff in terms of a partnership where people keep up with daily life and people both work full-time jobs and people help with raising kids and people, I think the big one is just people keep their lives together, and I felt like I can't do that. So how is anyone going to want to spend their life with me? And how is anyone going to be able to love me if I can't be the kind of partner that I want to be for them? And I'm going through all these struggles and whatnot and difficulties and differences from other people. And so that was something that I struggled with quite intensely for a long time. And especially since online dating is what happens now, and online dating is soul destroying. And so it was even, amplified beyond that, where I was meeting people who I knew wouldn't accept the difficulties that I face in life. But then I met you. And, even still, I've gone through periods where I felt that I am unlovable because of my illness. And I have felt that I'm not a good enough partner to you because of my illness. And there's a lot of guilt and shame and gross stuff wrapped up within that. But I just kind of want to communicate that, everyone is different. Every relationship is different. Just because you experience more challenges in some realms does not make you unlovable and does not make you unworthy of forming a meaningful partnership with someone.
I think that everybody is lovable and has something to offer in a relationship and can be in a relationship and be in a meaningful, loving relationship. I think there's challenges and kind of adventure built up in trying to navigate life together and figure out how you can figure out the challenges that kind of come your way together. And so, you can't get caught up on, I think, on the idea that you need to be a perfect person in order to have somebody love you, because the reality is that none of us are perfect, and that's okay. And that, yeah, you can still have a loving, meaningful relationship with someone, and you still have a lot to offer somebody.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. That was long.
That was long. But I think it was valuable.
Yeah? Yeah.
You don't think so?
Those were hard questions. There were some tough ones in there.
They're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have read them first.
Yeah.
You read them first.
Okay, wrap it up?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to wrap it up?
So what more is there to say on relationships? I think we covered everything, right?
Is this your wrap up?
Yeah. We talked about this earlier, and relationships are such a big topic. And I feel like answering a few questions, well, I think there was 17. We should have broken it up. Answering a bunch of questions, you probably still don't have the best idea of what, our relationship is like. You have maybe a better idea. Our relationship isn't going to be like everyone else's relationship who, has a partner or partners or with chronic mental illness. But maybe this was useful in some way. We'll do other videos, I think, where we talk more specifically about what's marriage like, that kind of
our
thing.
relationship specifically.
Yeah. If you guys like this, if you don't, then just thumbs down and we'll.
Please don't. Anyway.
That's why you wrap these up, hey?
Anyway, I hope that you guys found this helpful in some way. If you want to see more videos from us, make sure to subscribe to our channel. And also, if you would like to help support the creation of videos like this one, please make sure to check out the link to our Patreon page. Thank you so much again for watching. And as always, wishing you and your loved ones good health. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.